July Day special. Today we're going to talk about the birth of our great nation, the best parts of being American, the retirement of one of our Supreme Court justices, the radicalization of the Democratic Party, and the death of civility in American society. I'm John Prophet, and this is the John Prophet Show. Thanks for being here, everyone. So, I have to apologize a little bit. We're not doing a video this week. We're not going to be doing a YouTube episode this week because I'm traveling for the 4th of July. But don't worry, luckily because I'm traveling for the holiday week, I'm with the retired Lieutenant Colonel Bill Prophet. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here on the show. I've never been on your show before. I've been on the... We've heard it both ways, but I've never been on the John Prophet Show. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, yes, absolutely. I'm glad you could be here. And actually, to be honest, I've never had anyone on this show before. You're the first official guest.
Well, that's true. I have listened, and I've seen the videos. You have not had any guests. So
yeah.
I'm the inaugural guest.
Exactly. So I don't know what that says about the show. It can be something very good. But, we're traveling. We're up in Michigan on the lake. And so I can't do the video this week, but we're very happy to be coming to the people as directly as possible, and we're always here for them, so we're not going to miss that. But
they'll still hear the truth no matter whether we're video or audio. They get the truth out.
That's right. They'll get to hear us talk about what matters. And I think right now what matters this week is it's we're vacationing, and the reason we're vacationing is because it's the summer. I love the summer. It's so much fun. It's a little hot out there for me, honestly, but I'd prefer this to the 10 degree, 15 degree weather in Russia right now. Those commies. But, along with the summer comes 4th of July, and the 4th of July is obviously, it's one of my favorite weeks of the entire year. It's the week it's the birthday of the country, and I think this is one of the best countries to be in, and I think we should start off our 4th of July Day special by going around and saying, like, what we all care, why we all are so in love with this country, and why we think this country is so great to be a part of. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, I'm thrilled to be having been born an American. My family on my mother's side, I'm a little iffy on my dad's side. He died when I was so young, and everybody on that side of the family's dead. But my mom was born. She was the first generation born American. Her father came from Ireland, and I'm sure they came here for a reason. Just like all these folks who are trying to get here from South and Central America, they're coming here for a reason.
Yeah.
But he came legally. Mm-hmm. He came through Ellis Island, did all that. But I'm thrilled that I didn't have to live in Ireland. And Ireland's a very nice place. I'm not knocking that. But it's been through so many problems. We were Catholic. We're probably from Northern Ireland. I probably would have been involved in the Troubles. Who knows? I might have ended up being an IRA terrorist, and there's reasons to support them. Of course, there's violence is not reason. There's no reason for that anywhere. But still, if you're there's reasons to support that and become involved in it. And I'm lucky I didn't have to go through that. I've grown up in America. I had a chance to go from fairly low level, poverty up to, I'm not rich, but I'm doing okay. And I think that anyone who comes here and they do the right things and legally, keep themselves clean, their nose clean, do the work, can advance in this country. And it depends on your motivation, your goals, how far you can advance. That's the main thing I believe here. That's what I really believe about this country.
Is that what makes America so great? That's why people love it so much, because you really can be at the bottom, and if you work hard and do everything that you think you're capable of doing, you can really rise to the top. Is that why people love it so much? Is that why you love it?
That's why I love it. Many countries, I'm going to take India and England and probably quite a few other countries that have a caste system. Of course, in India, it was called a caste system, and you could not leave your caste. Mm. You were stuck in that caste. And in England, you were a royal or you were a commoner. Mm-hmm. Even if you had money, the royals or I'm talking about the dukes, duchesses, and all those folks, besides not the kings and queens, but you were still not one of them. Mm-hmm. Here you can become an elite member of the United States society in the United States, not be a snotty piece of crap like those folks, but you can still move up and be up there. Rockefeller and some of those guys had no education, but they became giants. Not necessarily financially, but they did. They built this country.
I think the reason one of the reasons the United States is such a great country, and you talk about some of the people who were extremely successful, and that's why you point to the United States being such a great place, because people like that could rise to that level. And I think they were able to rise to that level because some of the freedoms and some of the liberties that were given in this great nation, and I think they're being restricted in a sense. Some people are trying to restrict them, but before we get to that, I want to say I think the reason this country is so great is because of the U.S. Constitution, the greatest document ever written in the history of mankind, and it has made it so Americans of the time and Americans now are the most blessed people in the entire world. Don't you think that the U.S. Constitution plays a significant role in the success and the leadership of the free world that the U.S. takes place in?
It is the perfect document, most perfect document ever written. Now, even though this is my first time on your podcast, I did contribute an article about this on the Axiom News Network website.
Yeah.
You got to remember these old white guys who mostly had slaves. Mm-hmm. They owned slaves. They thought they were better because they owned slaves. You can't own somebody who you feel more you're not superior to. Right. They wrote a document that would eventually abolish slavery. Mm-hmm. They made it such a pliable document. You can add amendments to it. You can take things away. Of course, Prohibition is one of those.
Yeah.
But they gave freedom to the black people. They gave, essentially to everybody in this country. They gave them the right to vote.
For women, even also.
And for women, also. That's later.
It's awesome it's funny that you bring that up, because we actually have a picture of the Constitution here on our wall because we care very much about it. But one of the biggest arguments against the founders of our country is that, they said all men are created equal, but while they did that, they owned slaves. So the founders of the Constitution, the founders of our great nation, whose birthday we will be celebrating in 2 days, they created a document, they drafted a document where it set out a set of principles that they thought that the perfect nation, or the best nation at least, should be living up to. And one of those principles was that all men should be created equal. Just because they owned slaves, just because they didn't actually live up to the document that they wrote out, doesn't mean that those principles that they wrote out are any less important or any less significant. They maybe should not have owned, obviously they shouldn't have owned slaves. They maybe didn't live up to the expectations that they even placed out in the Constitution, but because they placed out such amazing principles and expectations and rights in that document, in that founding document of our country, they made it so this country could continue to be better and better and improve, and we have. And this country has never been better and freer and more of a great place to live in than it is today.
Well, I absolutely believe that, but if you listen to the folks on the left, they think somehow it's become more restrictive. I don't understand this. If they were in a less restrictive environment, such as Nazi Germany, they wouldn't be permitted to say that it's not open and free and democratic. They would be smacked down, stomped down with a jackboot, and wouldn't be saying anything. So they're actually defeating their own argument when they're saying that this country is repressive and that it's not living up to its goals.
But they actually, the people on the left, they do talk and act like we live in Nazi Germany, circa World War II. I mean, how do they rationalize that?
Well, they throw that Nazi around awful easily. Now, I caught briefly a bit of Wolf Blitzer doing a counter to that. Now, he's not exactly a conservative talker, but someone threw that out, and he had if I remember, I'm going to paraphrase here, guys, don't hold me to this, but his parents or grandparents had been victims of the Holocaust. Yeah. He basically, hold up, guys, no, you cannot compare these people to the Nazis, which I thought was amazing. And, it's true. Nothing here is even like that.
So it's funny because, I live in this great community. It's like the perfect-esque suburb. I was sitting out on the porch last night. It was 77 degrees at 9 p.m. It was just picturesque, perfect. And I think there are countries in Iraq and Iran and Syria that are just so much worse than this. What is taking place? What has taken place for hundreds of years in this country that's made it so I can live this life so amazingly, and these other countries can't do that. And tomorrow night I'm going to go out into this amazing party in this giant field and watch all these fireworks be shot in the air to celebrate the birth of this country. They don't do that in other places. What are we doing that's so much better?
It goes back to what we were just talking about. Our Constitution. It lays out everything. It's a basis for all laws. Now I'm going to back up a little bit here. Now, the Founding Fathers were big. They mentioned God. Now, basically, if you take any set of laws, you can compare them to the Ten Commandments. You don't steal, you don't kill people, things like that. Those are the basis of a lot of law. We refer to our country our background as Judeo-Christian, which comes from Jewish and Christian combined. Now, it doesn't exclude the Muslims. We're not doing that. If you want to throw stones at that, feel free, but that's not what the phrase is about. It comes from our belief that we can do better. We've got that Constitution that prevents people from doing things that will restrain you. Again, we go back to slavery. Black man was enslaved. Well, the Constitution basically was made so that was wrong.
Right.
Women couldn't vote. Same old white guys had slaves, didn't let their women vote. They did not vote back.
But they made a document that made it so the country that they believed in, the principles that they believed in, could be realized by people who are even better than them.
Right. That's why I say it is the perfect document.
Yeah.
And people give these old, again, I use the phrase old white guys because that's what I've heard them called more, not exactly as a flippant thing that I'm doing, but as a really dig at them because they were old white guys who decided this.
So I'm going to quiz you here now, as a part of our. I'm gonna have to answer the same questions myself.
Let's see if I freeze up here.
But as a part of our 4th of July Day special, give me your 3 favorite parts about being American.
Oh.
And give me your favorite part about the year 2018 so far.
First of all, one of my favorite parts, 3 parts about being an American. We can all vote. Now, if you've committed some major felonies, you might not be voting. Hey, you shouldn't have pulled a gun and shot somebody. Suck it up. Now, that also depends on states. Some states do allow felons to vote. It's not a national thing. That's states' rights.
More and more states are passing it.
States' rights. Second one, I can own a gun if I want to. And if I use it violently, illegally, I will be slapped down and arrested. I have no doubt with that. I have no problem with that. You're supposed to use a gun I have used gun. I spent quite a bit of time in the Army, so I love shooting. I really did like shooting. I shot competitively. I shot as a hobby. Now, I don't do that anymore because I've got a little bit of shake in my hand. So if I'm going to shoot at a target, I need to shoot with a shotgun so I can make sure I hit that target. But if I use that gun illegally, I expect it to be taken away from me. I expect my freedom to be taken away from me. So there's no problem with that. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. I'm not sure how many people in prison would complain if if they were being honest. Well, yeah, I shouldn't have shot that guy, so maybe I shouldn't be out there in the world. Of course, anyone in prison, very few people in prison are going to come out and say, I'm guilty, I should be in prison. There probably are some. Other things I like about being American. You can travel anywhere in this country. Anywhere. And no one's going to stop you. And until recently, if you were traveling around parts of Europe, you were stopped. If you were traveling around Russia, you couldn't travel from one part of Russia, the USSR, let's call it that, to another part of the USSR because you needed basically permission. You need a passport. You needed permission. That's never happened here. If you want to, you can travel anywhere in this country as long as you've got gas and money or shoe leather.
So what's your favorite thing about 2018 so far?
2018 so far. I was not initially a Donald Trump supporter. I actually been to a Ben Carson rally, and I really liked him. I also was a fan of Carly Fiorina. I was going to mess her name up. I've been doing that lately. If you listen to my other podcasts, I've been messing names up. So I was not initially a Donald Trump supporter. I did fall back on him. I do support him now. He's not perfect. None of them are. He says things he probably shouldn't, but is it charm. I don't know. Maybe that's just charm. He's not like other politicians. He doesn't sound like other politicians. He doesn't think for 20 minutes to come up with a pat answer that he's going to say over and over again. He's going to forget what he said 2 hours ago. He's going to say something different, and it's going to be more spectacular. So I am really impressed with what he has accomplished, because I think we had low expectations. Yeah. So that's one of the highlights of my 2018.
So I would say that my favorite thing about the U.S. is the freedom of speech, ability to do what we're doing right now, is talking about what we believe in, what we are passionate about, being able to say this is what's right, this is what is wrong, and call out the people who we disagree with, and freedom of the press, freedom of religion. It's all included in there, and I think it's a very crucial part of what makes this country so great. Obviously, it's the Second Amendment, ability to protect yourself. And I think it's a crucial part, because you see a lot of the countries where the people are struggling, the people are suffering, the people aren't doing very well, and you see the government oppressing them. I think it is really happening in the countries where they kind of take away those rights, and I think the rights of all Americans that are guaranteed by the Constitution, I think, are extremely important. I think my favorite part of 2018, but also my least favorite part of 2018, is seeing the left absolutely lose it. They really have. And when I think they lost it the most was very recently when Anthony Kennedy decided that he was going to retire from the Supreme Court.
The world's coming to an end.
It is coming to an end. They can't deal with it at all. And Mitch McConnell says he's going to make sure there's a vote before the midterms, and so of course naturally the Democrats' response is, well, Donald Trump and or Mitch McConnell and the GOP made sure that there was no voting on a Supreme Court nominee during election year, back when Merrick Garland was nominated. Well, that wasn't during a midterm year. Midterm, that was a presidential lame duck term, which the Joe Biden rule said we don't vote for candidates during that time. But they're trying to pull that card. What do you think is going to happen with this? I mean, aren't they losing it?
They sound crazy.
Yeah.
See, they don't understand, and Hillary and all the folks, they don't understand why she lost the election. They keep preaching crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. There is no, whoever becomes the new member of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
He and the other guys who might be conservative are not going to abolish the Constitution. They're not going to eliminate all the rights. They're not going to restrict freedom of speech. They're not going to take the vote away from women. They're not going to put chains on black people.
But if you that's what they're trying to sell it as.
That's what they're selling it
as. But the issue they're focusing on the most is the Roe v. Wade issue, the Roe v. Wade decision. Because Kennedy was the swing vote. He wasn't really a moderate. He either voted really conservative or he voted really liberal. But he was always the one swinging either way. I mean, I have to imagine that whoever Trump puts in place, they're going to be there for 30, 40 years. They're going to kind of be reshaping the Supreme Court for the next generation. That's why they're freaking out about this. Do you think Trump's going to nominate someone who will overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, he's not. Well, the problem with that is they're making it sound like the guys are going to gather together and just overturn it just haphazardly.
Right.
First of all, they don't create cases at the Supreme Court. Cases are brought to them, and it's through a series of trials. It can be years before a case reaches the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Look how long it took for the President Trump's travel ban to reach the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and that was a priority case.
It took over a year.
Yeah.
And that was mainly because I think the Justice Department was pushing it. Mm-hmm. But if you and I were to bring a court case, it goes to wherever the local court is, goes to next level, and finally it might make it to the Supreme Court. It's going to take years before anyone challenges, I think, the Roe v. Wade thing.
But they're saying they're going to challenge it right away. They're saying that there are high level people on the Democratic left who are saying within the next 18 months, 20 states will have banned abortion. Do you think that within 18 months, 20 states will have banned abortion?
Well, states' rights are important, and some states have made it very difficult to have an abortion.
So what people are worried about is that, if Roe v. Wade is ruled on again and it's overturned by the Supreme Court, what's going to happen is abortion is suddenly illegal. That's not what's going to happen if Roe v. Wade is overturned. What happens is if Roe v. Wade is overturned is it gets kicked back to the states.
To a lower,
so
yes.
all the states vote based on their state. Their state decides, all right, are we going to allow abortion or are we not going to allow abortion? Probably, 20 states or so will say, hey, we're very conservative, we're not allowing abortion. That doesn't mean abortion's illegal. You can still go to any place in the U.S., besides those 20 states and get abortions. But they're acting like it's the end of the world.
Now, I apologize, I can't give the credit correctly on this, but on Fox today, Fox News, one of the folks was referring to for the folks on the left, this is their issue. Just like on the right, it's gun rights.
It's gun rights, yeah.
So they have to have this to argue.
Oh, it's like abortion is their gun rights. It's weird though that their gun rights issue is they think they have the right to kill their children.
That is true. That is true.
Because, and I posted this on Facebook the other day. It says, and I literally my Facebook post was like, Democrats always use the excuse like your right to guns is our right to like our bodies or whatever. I'm like, no, it's not. In the U.S. Constitution, it's Happy 4th of July. In the U.S. Constitution, it says written. You have the right to own and bear arms.
Yes.
Nowhere in the U.S. Constitution does it say you have the right to kill your baby. It doesn't say that. I'm sorry. You don't have the right. But this is going to be a tough vote for us to confirm the Supreme Court nominee. So first off, the Democrats, they're the ones who basically made it so they couldn't vote through. The Democrats couldn't vote through their Supreme Court nominee. They needed 60 votes. They couldn't do it. So Harry Reid changed the rules. Simple majority. You only need 51 votes to vote through a Supreme Court nominee in the U.S. Senate. And the Democrats at the time said, this is a bad idea. How are you going to feel about it when we're just voting through our people and you don't like who we're voting through? Like, we don't care. Now it's time. The Republicans only need 51 votes to confirm the Supreme Court nominee by Donald Trump.
I think they can get the votes. There are maybe 10 or so Democrats who are trying to keep their jobs in states that President Trump won.
Right.
And if they go out and start hammering voting, talking about voting, or if they finally vote against, not just talk about it, if they actually vote against his nominee, I've got a feeling he might be visiting those states.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he might support the guy. He's not going to hammer him, I don't think. Because I think Donald Trump is the type of guy who respects loyalty.
Yeah.
So if you were to support his candidate, even if you're a Democrat, I don't think he's going to bust your chops more than he has to.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would respect that. He would show his thanks by not overly supporting someone in your district. Now, I'm shooting the hip. I don't know what the man's thinking.
Yeah.
But I do honestly believe he really respects loyalty.
Yeah, well, he does, but I can't lie. It was pretty amazing for me the end of this past week and early into this week, just to see all the Democrats and all the liberals freak out about the Supreme Court nomination. They're all crying. They're losing it. They're even some of them are even calling for violence. They're so upset about this. And we're never going to let that happen. I mean, civility has been on the decline for a while. Civility is at all-time low, but we won't allow it to resort to violence, but man, the left's been upset about the Supreme Court nominee.
Well, I could see there being the folks on the extreme left being violent. I'm going to give Antifa.
Yeah.
That's basically an acronym for anti-fascist. Wait a minute.
But they are
Who is burning books?
Yeah.
Who is preventing free speech?
The ones who are upset with fascism are the ones who are the fascists.
They are being fascists. Who burned the books in Germany? The fascists. Who prevents free speech? The fascists.
So obviously Donald Trump is the one who... Donald Trump came out and he said, I'm going to only nominate pro-life nominees for the Supreme Court. Do you believe that's what he's going to do?
I don't think... First of all, if I were the president... If I were a possible nominee, I would not answer that question. Because you should not even in the privacy of the president's office, discuss how you might react to future cases. That would be that would be definite bias. I picture the Supreme Court judge sitting there with the Constitution in his right hand, the case in the other hand, and looking at the Constitution, not using his own bias. You know, back when I'm going to back up a little bit in history, everybody thought President Kennedy was going to, the then candidate Kennedy was going to, if he was elected, was going to make a Catholic church for the United States. No, goofy people.
Never did that.
No, he didn't do that. So I don't think these folks, if they're honest and good jurists, they're going to handle any case by interpretation of the Constitution.
Right.
And not have any now they will have their own preconceived notions, but yeah, everybody has their own thoughts about things. But they will take the Constitution and they'll take the case at hand and the evidence presented in the arguments, and they will decide it that way.
Well, if we got what we wanted, they would obviously be just making their decisions based off the Constitution, but the Democrats don't always vote based on that. And Susan Collins, the most liberal conservative in all of Congress, came out, senator from Maine, came out saying she's not going to vote for
I saw that.
A Supreme Court nominee who is pro-life. Donald Trump's not going to nominate a Supreme Court nominee who's not pro-life. So she's basically saying, no matter what, she's voting with the Democrats. So that puts us down to 50. I think Lisa Murkowski is a big question mark as well. Another female. I think South Dakota maybe, or Missouri. And if they both vote no, then they're going to have to get at least one Democrat to go to the other side. What do you think is going to happen? Who's going to win this battle?
I would not want to be a member of Donald Trump's party if I voted against one of his candidates.
Yeah.
I do. He can raise hell against his fellow Republicans as much or more than he will with the Democrats. I could picture him. I don't know when these folks are up for re-election, but I could picture him going out and urging his supporters to not vote for them.
Yeah.
Maybe even encouraging whoever's out there to run against them. Because these folks are not young. There's someone out there young who wants to get started.
Yeah. Speaking of the person who's young and out there who wants to get started, we need to definitely talk about this.
Miss Cortez?
Oh my God! This radical socialist crazy person, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, very very Bernie Esker-esque. She thinks minimum wage, $15 minimum wage universally. She's a young Hispanic, 28-year-old socialist waitress who hadn't been in politics until 5 minutes ago. She thinks Israel's genocidal. She
wants everybody to have a home.
Right.
Free.
Universal housing. Housing is a right to everyone. Right? Housing's a right to everyone.
That's a right, yes.
If you're alive, you have a right. Guaranteed Medicare for all. She wants to guarantee a living wage, publicly funded taxpayer universities and trade schools, paid family and sick leave for all, mandatory, for every employer in the country, housing guaranteed, like we said, it's a human right, citizenship for all dreamers, the abolition of ICE, the abolition of all fossil fuels, $15 minimum wage. Like I said, wants to ban all guns. I mean, this is one of the most radical people I've seen run for Congress in my lifetime, and she's being hailed in the liberal media as a hero.
Well, I have to admit, who was the fellow that was running against her? He was
Joe Crowley.
He was an idiot.
Wasn't
he? He was lazy. He followed. He didn't learn. He's another one of these Democrats who didn't learn from Hillary. She didn't go and campaign.
He just shows how bad the Democrats are. They don't think they need to show up to their campaign events. They don't think they need to show up to their debates.
Just because he'd been elected 10 times and Steinmeier. No, what's his name? Help me, I'm losing his name.
Chuck Schumer.
No. He hosts a show with Dana.
Oh, Starwalk.
Right. He basically said today that he only got in there because New York politics is so crooked. That's why he got started.
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
I apologize for that, sir.
no, it's all good.
I like you. I just lost your name.
It's because he's old. Fine, don't worry about it. But I mean, it's crazy because the Democrats, the party is going further and further left. All I saw talked about today was that most Democrats are getting on the abolish ICE bandwagon. Are we really going to abolish ICE? That's what we're doing?
We're not going to abolish ICE. Now,
but
ICE
it's a mainstream Democratic talking point.
It is, and they're morons. ICE does a lot of things besides the immigration. They stop tons of drugs. They stop violent criminals. They stop weapons. It's, again, we have borders, people. If you cross that border illegally, you're in trouble. You're a criminal.
You're going to be arrested. You're going to be arrested.
Oh my God, people! We just
so I'll just say only 5%. So this Cortez victory, only 5% of the registered voters showed up. 27,000 in total. She was like I said, she was a bartender 5 minutes before this happened. She's gonna be great at running our country. Just so you know, I mean, like I said, one of the most radical people to ever run for this position, and she's economically illiterate. She's a socialist, but she doesn't even really know what socialism is. But she's going to make America better using socialism somehow.
I assume she also doesn't know the history that socialism has had. Most recently, you have Venezuela, which is a toilet now.
Right.
It went from a thriving. People are going to Colombia to buy toilet paper. You can't get items in Venezuela because it's a socialist country. But Chavez took it over. His wife is he's dead, but his wife is one of the richest women in the world. How'd that happen? Where'd that money come from?
It's horrible.
Socialists at the top always do well.
Yeah, they all and the people below them always do horrible. And we have to point out that the horrific trend towards the left of the Democratic Party and the horrific trend towards socialism of millennials. To quote the New York Times, talk of popular control of the means of production is basically 61% of Democrats between the ages of 18 and 34 view socialism positively. And it's significantly even worse amongst young millennial women. They support socialism. I
don't think they really understand what it is.
No.
Again, I wrote another article for the Axiom News Network website, and I basically said, socialism's pretty good, maybe on the way up. Let's say you get to Bernie. Remember, Bernie wanted a 90% tax at one point. Mm-hmm. Oh, let's say, it's pretty good when you're down at the bottom and you're getting some guaranteed money, you're getting a free education, you're getting health care. But now you're up there and you're making that $100,000 job, and you're really only getting $10,000 of it.
Yeah.
Now socialism isn't so good.
Not so great.
Because they take your money and they spread it out.
And everyone talks about, look at the socialism success of the Nordic countries. But they're really not successful because that's not really socialism. First off, you can't compare the economics of a country with 10 million people to the economics of a country with 330 million
New York City has almost that many people.
Exactly, yeah. So when you have that many people, clearly the government can't pay for all that. The Nordic socialist countries also have some of the lowest corporate taxes in the entire world, and it really helps out with that. And they have oil money that those governments collect that they hand out checks to the people. So socialism is not really going on in those countries, so you can't use those as perfect examples. The countries that have usually actually implemented socialism have failed. They're all doing horribly.
France is seeing the light to a degree. They're actually making people work.
Yeah.
You have to go to work if you have a job.
Oh no.
Yes. Yeah. And you're not absolutely guaranteed a job for life, which is what they were doing in France. Yeah. You're not necessarily going to get 3 months of vacation every year, which was some of the things that were going on in France. Look at Greece. Greece is a socialist country, and it's broke.
Yeah.
First of all, Greece doesn't produce anything really. What they have old ruins. And people come to see those things. Yeah. And it's a nice environment. It's a Mediterranean country, so it's pleasant to be there. But if it weren't for tourism, Greece would have nothing. Mm-hmm. They owe the EU so much money. Well, the EU's having trouble.
So
in itself.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Prophet, let's get your final thoughts on the United States of America, why you love the country so much, and just talk about the nation a little bit.
Well, I love this country. I went from having an outhouse when I was a kid to being going in the Army and making lieutenant colonel. Which, if anyone, some of my fellow officers when I was out there. You know some of the dumb things I did. I was thrilled to make lieutenant colonel. But I went from an outhouse to lieutenant colonel. I got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. Paid for those myself. No, correction, the master's was free. I stumbled into that. But I paid for the bachelor's myself. And I was able to achieve where I've got now. I'm not up there with Donald Trump, but I think I've done okay. I love this country. I'm glad I'm here. I could have been in Ireland. I don't know. Maybe I'd be serving beer in a pub today, or maybe I'd been a member of the IRA and killing Protestants or British soldiers, or maybe been killed myself. This is a great place to be. I love it here.
Yeah, definitely. Great chat out there. I'm a huge fan of this country. I think the freedoms and the opportunities that are given to us here. When it's like, wow, I just turn on the faucet and there's running water and I can just walk outside and not worry about getting shot. And, it's not 1 billion degrees outside and I'm able to have running water.
Look what you're doing right
AC.
now. You've got freedom of speech to have this podcast.
Exactly. And because of how amazing this country is, I, John Prophet, am allowed to, use my freedom of speech and talk about the things I want to, and use the capitalism to chase after my dreams and go after the things I want to, and really, I think that's what set this country apart, and it makes it so special that people really can have a purpose and a meaning, and raise a family and have a life and make the world a better place in this country. And I'm just super glad that our founding fathers wrote a document that made it so we could have the freest and most prosperous and most successful competitive society the world has ever seen, and the world will ever see, hopefully. And, thank all of you for being a part of this and helping out what we're doing. And, check out Axiom News Network. Check out the Axiom News Network YouTube page. Subscribe, like us. Hit the bell. Please subscribe at the website, axiomnewsnetwork.com. And you can get all of our podcasts on, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.